This episode contains material that may be triggering to some individuals. Please check the show notes for more information and be mindful of your own mental health and comfort levels. Quiet Connection is proud to be affiliated with the Blue Dot Project through Postpartum Support International. As an ambassador, I am dedicated to promoting perinatal mental health awareness, spreading the blue dot as a symbol of support and solidarity, and ending the stigma and shame. The blue dot is a universal symbol for perinatal mental health and is owned by the community. That means you. Anyone can use it. You'll notice a blue dot on all of Quiet Connection's social media accounts. To learn more, visit thebluedotproject.org. Welcome to Quiet Connection, a podcast dedicated to ending the stigma surrounding perinatal mental health. I'm Chelsea. Today, I'm connecting with Naomi, a somatic trauma expert who shares her journey through cycle breaking and trauma processing. Naomi joins me to discuss her transition into motherhood and how it eventually pulled back the curtain on decades of suppressed childhood trauma. We explore the intersection of severe postpartum depression and somatic healing, the mirroring effect our children have on our own nervous systems, and how healing those younger parts of ourselves allows our true colors to finally shine. This is a raw look at how motherhood can be both a trigger for past pain and a gift of strength for the healing journey ahead. Here's Naomi. Today, I am here with Naomi. Naomi, how are you?
I am very good. I'm very happy to be here with you, Chelsea. Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here with me. For people who are not watching and who are listening, Naomi's got this gorgeous background right now. I'm stuck here in frigid Vermont and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, I want to be wherever that is. That looks so cozy.
It's actually freezing today.
Okay, well, maybe not.
But it's always green in Georgia.
Yes.
So,
Oh my goodness.
yes.
Well, I had to mention it because I keep looking out your window oh, it looks so peaceful. Anyway, that was a sidetrack moment. Naomi, I would love it if you could introduce yourself to my listeners and also let us know who you were before starting your parenting journey.
Who I was before. So, okay. Start with I'm Naomi Morad, and I'm a mother of 4. My oldest is 29 and my youngest is 20. For work, I help people heal and transform past trauma. I help people work through depression and anxiety and obsessive thoughts and behaviors. I work with a lot of people with sexual trauma, any kind of abuse that someone's been through and the effects of it today. Or we can go back and see, why is a person depressed today? And usually it relates to early childhood trauma and the pain that we carry into our lives today from unprocessed trauma. And I help people heal the root core of that trauma. And then when we do that, there's very quick shifts and transformation taking place, and people heal very fast and start to feel more regulated in their daily lives. So that, in a nutshell, is what I do.
That's what you're doing today.
That's what I'm doing today.
Yeah. How about prior to parenting?
Prior to parenting, I studied at NYU. And I got married when I was 21. I was born and raised in Germany and then moved to New York and then moved to Israel and then I had children. So that's prior to parenting.
Yeah. You were all over the place. You were very
And
worldly.
and I lived in Italy as well prior to
Oh my
parenting.
gosh. So yeah, you experienced the world.
I experienced the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, I experienced a few years of marriage without children, which was also awesome. I'm still married to the same man. And I was suffering from a lot of depression.
You have a history with mental health, which is
Yes.
important to note.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you always envision yourself becoming a parent?
Yes. I always wanted to have 4 children
Okay.
because it took me some time to understand that, to put 2 and 2 together. But growing up, I come from a family where we're 4 siblings,
Mhm.
but there was a lot of trauma in our home, a lot of abuse, and we were taught to keep secrets. And nobody was allowed to share anything with anyone. Therefore, you can imagine I have very complex relationship with my siblings,
Mhm.
and we were never close. And I really wanted I had the vision of my kids loving each other, caring for each other, and to be one unit, fully be able to trust each other. That was my mission.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it worked out pretty well.
I know, I was gonna say, you have 4 children and yeah, and you're doing this work, and you're doing this, I mean, professionally, and it also sounds like something that was really important to you was cycle breaking, in terms of your own family.
Yes, yes. And I was completely dissociated until I had my second child.
Okay.
I had no conscious awareness of what I went through as a child. I was just very depressed. And at some point after I was already happily married, I had 2 children, I had wonderful husband, still have my wonderful husband. I had no objective reason to be depressed all the time, but I just was like manic depression. I was either on a high or a low. It was very exhausting. And after the second birth, I went into postpartum depression for 8 months. I could barely lift my head. And that's when I decided, okay, I got to figure this out. Like, I can't do this anymore. I had difficulty being a mother. I had difficulty functioning. Like, I did what I needed to do, but it was very like functional. Like,
Right.
I was completely detached emotionally. And that's when my personal healing journey began, and I started coping with my depression, and I started learning about what gets me depressed, what my triggers are. I suddenly learned that I have a lot of anger stored inside of me that I was never aware of, and that every time I get angry, could have been something as simple as someone cutting the line in front of me at the post office, that I had to like go home and say, okay, why am I depressed now? Like, to backtrack and really learn what's happening to me, what's happening around me, like really start to become aware of what's going on inside of me and around me. And that was like my first big step towards healing. And from then I started having memories of my childhood, of was sexually abused for 20 years. Um so and it was quite severe because my father also ran a trafficking ring. So I went through a very colorful childhood, but not pretty colors.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and you mentioned, so there's a few things I'm curious about. You mentioned that you had kind of dissociated up until this point.
yeah.
So, going into deciding to start a family, at that point, were you even aware of the extent of you were not aware of the extent of your abuse?
I was not aware at all. I can tell you, I knew that I had a lot of trauma from my family because my family was just a horrible family to begin with.
Yeah.
But I had no recollection of the sexual trauma,
Okay.
and the abuse and everything that came with it and the violence. I I just knew something had gone awfully wrong in my life, and I walked around with that feeling, and physically I felt like everything in my body was black.
Mm.
Every time I looked inside, I felt like everything was dark and black. And I had like I remember now, I had like this image of like empty shelves, like My shelves, my resources were robbed empty. And there
Yeah.
was nothing, like, I had no more energy.
Yeah, that makes so much sense, and the reason that I ask it too is because when you made that decision to start your family, like, I'm curious what obviously you knew that your family dynamic was not normal, the family that you were brought up in. How did that impact your vision of yourself as a mother as you entered your first pregnancy and as you entered your first postpartum phase? How did that play out?
Good question. I was terrified.
Mm,
I was so terrified of becoming a mother, that I was gonna fail as a mother, that I was gonna be a mother like my mother was, that although I knew that I am not that person, and yet I was terrified that I was gonna do badly with this. I was really worried of not being a good enough mother. That was my fear. And then, like, I have to say, even though, and I really think that I'm very lucky that I have that, even though I suffered from this manic depression, um, there was also always that part of me that knew that I can.
mhm.
That I knew that there's also this light that I carried, even though, there was so much mud on it and everything, but I still had a lot of love in me. And when my daughter was born, the first one, I remember it was like magic for me. It was like a miracle. I was like, yeah, it was like a miracle.
It sounds like that fear and that worry, which you had layers and layers and layers that went with that, but, and fear and anxiety of being enough as a mother is a really common thread that a lot of moms that I speak to, share. But it sounds like when you had your daughter, it did not affect your ability to connect with her.
It didn't. And with that, I can say that because I feel like every birth, um, like opens another door inside of us.
Mhm.
And with that, I think I got my first peek into. I was terrified from the second that she was born that she was going to be sexually abused. Terrified. And I had no idea where that thought came from.
Right.
But it was already the first opening to remembering, even though I
Mhm.
didn't understand it at the time.
Was that a pretty constant worry? Was that something
Yes,
that just kinda stuck around?
very, very much.
Did you talk to anybody about it at the time?
I, I spoke to my husband after a few months,
Okay.
and I shared my worry with him. Um, I think he was very surprised, but it was so strong. I had to speak about it, and I had to share my worry, and I had to make sure that my daughter was safe, even from her own father, because to me, my father was the unsafest person on the planet. So I just like had to make sure that my daughter is safe, and that I make sure that I let the world, which was my husband at the time, know that you have to keep my daughter safe.
Yeah. You couldn't quite explain it at the time, but you had this instinct and this innate need to keep her safe from a trauma that you hadn't even fully wrapped your own head around yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then you said when you had your second, which was your son,
No,
correct?
I have my first two are daughters.
Oh, you okay, so your first 2 are daughters. So, was it when you had your second, or was it later on that
After
you
I
s
had my second, I fell into, like, it wasn't manic depression anymore. It was just depression. There was
Yeah,
no breath, no nothing. Um,
okay.
yeah. And yeah,
You attribute you attribute that to postpartum depression, you think that was postpartum depression? Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm curious too, the only reason I ask is I'm curious if you think resurfacing trauma maybe played into that as well or amplified it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, can you talk to me about that a little bit?
A lot of people look at depression and they say it's hormonal
Hmm.
and it's something in my brain. And that's why I'm taking meditation. And I look at it very differently. I think because of trauma, we have depression and something triggers it and like throws you over the curve. And that creates a chemical reaction in your brain. So,
Yeah.
when you ask, where's the chicken, where's the egg? I think the problem is the trauma that causes the depression. Depression creates a chemical reaction. But when we heal the trauma, that chemical reaction begins to regulate itself. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Again, I think every birth, like I said, is like a big. I mean, it is the birth in itself. As beautiful as it is, it's also a traumatic
Yes.
experience for the body. I mean, it's crazy what our bodies go through. I look at it, it's like an explosion inside of us, a new opening. And because it's so forceful and so big, and it brings up a lot of things that were dormant. Like with my first daughter, suddenly, I had all these fears and worries for her that weren't there before. And I think every birth brings something else and makes us cope with other things that we might not have been aware of. So the birth can be a trigger. And I think the birth for me was a trigger for sure.
Okay. Yeah, so that was gonna be my next question. If it was her birth in and of itself or the process of, like, going through the 4th trimester, which is exhausting and depleting in and of itself, but it sounds like you think the birth maybe opened the door, and then those days and weeks following.
I think it's a combination of things.
Okay.
Also, maybe a combination of things that I experienced during the pregnancy. Um, I can't really say I wouldn't say it's the last trimester. Uh, I think it was just, I'm thinking about like what comes up for me as we're talking is I think motherhood in itself and the responsibility that fell on me having to protect another life.
Mm.
And I had to make sure that nothing happens to her.
Did you have those same fears that you had with your first daughter?
Of course,
Yeah. Yeah.
big time.
When did the shift happen when you started to realize, "Wait a second, I think this is coming from something that happened to me?"
It took time for me to make that connection. So, first, like I said, 8 months later, I decided I need help. I went to psychosomatic practitioner, someone who specialized in, it's called the Greenberg method. I became practitioner later myself. So it's through the body, through body work. It's like, think of it like getting a massage, but it's not a massage, but it's certain techniques of how we work with the body to awaken trauma in the body that's dormant. Because everything
Mhm.
that happens to us happens inside our bodies as well as stored in our nervous system, in our cells, and our breath, and everything. It's not necessarily stored in our neocortex and our thinking mind, where we usually look for trauma and process trauma. And through that work, that's where I learned about my depression. I learned what I feel in my body, what happens, how it kicks in. Like I started to really grow my awareness, and it really helped me shift my depression. And every time I managed to understand what the trigger was, it was amazing. It's like within a second, the depression was gone. It's
Wow.
like you take off that lens and whoop, it's gone. Oh,
Mhm.
was the person that cut the line in front of me at the post office. I got angry. Oh, I get it. Okay, gone. It
Mm.
was literally like that. And the more my awareness grew, the less I suffered from depression. It was
Mhm.
like I found my own magic wand to undo that depression. And even later on in life, when I still would get depressed, which happened less and less and less throughout the years, every time, if I would backtrack and think, okay, what happened? Where was I before and when did it start exactly? The second I got it, gone.
Mm.
And it's like that, by the way, with everything, sore throat, um, pain, or whatever. Like for me, that works like magic when I
Yeah.
manage to make that connection, because there's always a trigger to everything that we feel. It's already been there. Like that depression was there before I gave birth.
Right.
There's something that triggers it, something that brings it to the surface. Um, the same with anxiety and everything else.
What it's sounding like to me is that through this work that you were doing, you developed a very intimate relationship with your body and connectedness with your body, and that really allowed you to explore your trauma in a different way and through a different lens. And like you said, it's kind of you like found your magic wand, some that worked for you. It took time.
I want to say
And
yes and.
yes, and that's my favorite phrase. Yes, and please, I want to hear it.
That brings me back to what I forgot to how to finish what you asked me before. So once I dealt with my depression and that wasn't an issue anymore in my life, and that took about maybe a year,
Hmm.
and I was done with that part. Then you know how we always work through layers. So the next thing shows up. Okay, you think, oh, I finally figured this out. I resolved this. And then next morning you wake up and you're like, oh shit, okay, what's next? I thought I was good for a while.
I thought I was going to have a break.
So the next thing that happened was the memories of my past began to surface. And coping with that brought up, that took every ounce of energy I had to
Yeah.
heal from that. Like it was hard work.
I can't even begin to imagine, and I know working through trauma in and of itself is a full body exercise.
It takes a lot, and I wish I would have known everything I know today, because I just kept studying and studying and studying and studying. I like studied for I started in 2000 with that body mind therapy that
Yeah.
it's called the Greenberg method. And after 3 years, I completed my training and got certified. And I said, okay, I'm very good with awakening trauma, but I'm missing tools of how to help people, how to support them when the trauma shows up. So I kept studying for years and years and years until I felt like I had enough tools to support, I guess, also myself and
Yeah.
anybody else who might come into my office. Doesn't matter how severe their issue is, that I have enough tools to help them work through that.
Yeah. So, you're doing this work, you're doing this research, you're also navigating working through your own trauma. How and when are you making the decision at that point to continue? Because you have your 4 children, you had your 2 children at the time. How did that impact your decision to continue having more children and your view of yourself as a mother through this?
I think when we understand and process the fears and the worries that run our subconscious, and when we learn how to cope with that, then everything is possible. So
Mhm.
my desire to have 4 children never changed, but I was able to show up very differently as a mother, especially once I had my third, which I waited 6 years between the second and the third because I needed time to heal. I was a different person already at that time. I had
Yeah.
healed enough in order to be able to feel so much more comfortable. Also, third child, I hear that from a lot of mothers. You're not worried about the things you're worried about with the first and the second, and it's like you're so much more relaxed. It's so much easier. It's like a sort of like a breeze, and that made me. I always feel that a much better mother to my first and my second,
Mm.
having the third,
Mhm.
and then within a year and 2 months, I had my fourth,
Okay.
and then I was like, I'm done.
Done. I have my 4. I'm done.
It was really like that. I had my 4, and I remember driving home from the hospital, sitting in the back seat with my newborn, 4th baby, and felt like I'm the richest person in the world, having 4 children.
Mhm.
That was just a feeling I had. Felt like
Well, yeah.
I was complete.
Well, and it speaks to, like you said, there was a gap in between. You had a 6-year gap between, your 2nd and your 3rd, and during that time, you did a lot of work on your own trauma and healing your own trauma. So you kind of came at this, I wanna say, like, 2nd round of parenting as a different person.
For sure.
Yeah, so
For
to
sure. My boys got a different mother than my girls. Like, the little ones are boys.
yeah,
100%.
yeah. To hear you say, like, driving home with your youngest, feeling like the richest person in the world, what a contrast to having your 1st and your 2nd and the empty bookshelves in your chest and the fear and the need to protect them from this threat that you didn't even fully understand. And to note as well, like you said early on in your 1st round of parenting, I don't know why I'm calling them rounds now, but you spoke to your husband about your feelings, but it doesn't sound like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but it doesn't sound like beyond that, there was much of a village that you, or maybe there was, that you could kind of lean into. No, no,
No.
no.
No, no, and yeah, no.
Do you feel like it was different when you had your boys?
Yes, but I was different.
Right.
Like, I was in a very different place.
Mhm.
Um, and I don't know why I feel it's important to say that, because I said, like, every birth is like a huge opening. It's like it's a big shift. Um, so the 1st and 2nd, I had an epidural. 2nd one, I endured much longer. I was able to wait until I had like a 7 centimeter opening. With the 1st, I couldn't wait to get my epidural, although I wanted a natural birth from the start. And I was like, okay, this is not going to work. The 3rd, I managed to make it without the epidural, but it was suffering.
Mhm.
With my 4th, it was the most peaceful birth I had. And I felt uh, it was like it was the birth that I had wanted from the start.
Yeah.
It was like completing that circle. And I was just a different person already at that point. I
Yeah.
didn't I was able to cope with the world differently. I wasn't overwhelmed like I was at first, the first years of my first round, as you say, of kids. It was a completely different experience, and that reflected itself in the people around me and the way I lived my life and the way who I was as a parent. I was very, very calm and very, I don't know, I always loved being a parent, I have to say. Like,
Yeah.
I think being a mother has been one of the most rewarding and nurturing things of my life.
I get that sense when I hear you speaking about it. And you did right at the end there, you kind of, like, the curiosity that I had, you kind of answered it for me. Like, you said you were a very different person, and when you had your daughters, I'm assuming, and like you said, you did not have that village around you, and when you are in a place where your mental health is affected and all of this, you're kind of, I won't even say you, a lot of people experience a sense of isolation. And sometimes it's you just don't feel the community around you, or there may not be a community around you that
I
you
did
have.
I remember I did have some very close 2 girlfriends that were very close to me at the time, and actually it was one of the 2 who said to me, "Listen, my husband just saw the psychosomatic practitioner who works with this Greenberg method, and my husband says it's really great, and I took a few sessions with him, and maybe you should go and see him." So it
Mm.
was because of my village.
Okay.
Even though it was
Okay.
small, and I was never the
Yeah.
kind of person who had like a zillion friends, but I always had like a few close friends. It was because of her
Yeah.
that I
Oh,
found that person. So yeah,
so
um,
yeah, I mean, a village is a village. A village is a village, and I always say that, like, we're promised a village, but no one told us we had to build it ourselves. Like, a lot of us kind of just think, like, it comes with the territory, but actually we have to build it ourselves. But when I heard you say, with your second 2, with your boys, you were just a completely different person. I'm wondering if that meant, like, you were just so calm, like, if that meant that you were in a place in your life where you were able to receive, where you were able to kind of just take that deep breath and recognize, like, "I am okay, my kids are okay, we're gonna be okay."
yes. And also by then, um, before I had my third, I had really done a lot of work with my past. I had confronted my family, had confronted my father, my siblings, my mother, like all of them all at once.
Mhm.
I did what was like so deeply unconscious for me, like was sitting so deeply in my unconscious, severe dissociation. You have to understand the way I look at it, trauma takes up a lot of space.
Yeah.
It takes up a lot of energy, a lot of space, and we don't know why we feel the way we feel. It's like we just feel down or depressed or anxious or in whichever way that may express itself, obsessive thought patterns, eating disorders. It doesn't matter. Like it has some kind of expression, and that becomes our world. But behind or underneath that, what seems to be our world is are those younger parts that are carrying a lot of pain, and
Mm.
they are in this bubble that we find ourselves in, and we're so sucked into that bubble that we can't see anything else. We can't see our children really. We can't see the people around us. We can't really hear what people are saying. Like everything is through that bubble.
Almost, like, muted.
Yes. Our
Yeah.
senses are muted. Our feelings and emotions are muted. There's so much extra noise. But as we heal those younger parts, it's like that bubble begins to dissolve,
Mhm.
and we have more space to breathe, and we have more space to show up as who we are. We have more we have the ability to let our colors shine instead of that bubble shutting us out from the world.
Yeah. I love that analogy. I love that visual. Um, and you did a lot of that work. I've got it in my notes, but you did parts work. You did inner child healing, which is something that I'm exploring. You did brain spotting, which again, these are things that you now do. Um, and if I missed this, I apologize. Were you doing psychosomatic work prior to all of this, or is this something that led you to this path?
Um, I started studying, and I did a lot more than this. This is just what you mentioned are the techniques that I found most helpful and that I primarily work with today.
Right.
But I have like this list of things I felt that I needed to learn and learn and learn and learn and learn in order to heal. I started studying in the year 2000, and actually, um, I think my memories started to surface in 2001.
Okay.
So, but around that time, I was already coping with my depression. I saw how helpful that is. And I knew that even though I studied communications at NYU, I realized I'm not interested in that.
Mhm.
I wanna help people, but I didn't know how. And I knew that it wasn't gonna be the traditional path of being a psychotherapist.
Mhm.
That didn't interest me at all. I was very connected to, like I described at first, that darkness that I felt inside my body. I knew that there had to be something that connects me to this, to my body.
Hmm.
I needed that somatic work in combination with the talk and with the processing of everything. And that's what I was looking for throughout all these years. So everything I did was a connection of body, mind, and soul.
Yeah. And like your journey through your own self-discovery, and through your own parts kind of led you to where you are today, which sounds simple when I say it that way, but it's a process, and you did a tremendous amount of work, not only on yourself, but to then take that and be like, "Okay, I wanna use this to help others as well." And, like, because we are a parenting podcast, it's just very interesting to me how your journey into motherhood, something that you always wanted, something that you always envisioned for yourself, opened these doors, and so they sort of coincided, right? Your journey through motherhood coincided with your journey to healing little you and healing parts of you that you didn't even know needed healing.
You know, Chelsea, I've never thought of it that way, but you're absolutely right.
I mean, that was just I took that away from hearing you, so I if it didn't resonate, you could totally tell me and be like, "No, not at all."
It's
But
it's so true. And I think being a mother, and that I was aware of, being a mother gave me the strength to push through. Because I think if I wouldn't have been a mother, I'm sure actually, either I would have not remembered or I probably wouldn't be here anymore.
that's a really powerful statement. Yeah. What does that feel like?
Um, Sad. I think the thought that comes up is like sad that I needed to be a mother in order to push through. And on the other hand, I always felt like the kids are the biggest gift of my life.
Yeah.
And they taught me so much. And without my kids, I mean, when my oldest was 2 years old, I suddenly understood it's like she's like my mirror. When I'm in a bad mood, she's gonna be pissy and she's not gonna be nice. And I can get angry at her or I can see, oh, she's my mirror. And when I'm nice to her and when I'm kind and when I'm patient, then she is kind and loving back. And the second I understood that, I was like, wow, my kids are like my mirror. And I've taken that throughout my whole motherhood. And I want to invite every mother listening, instead of looking at your child and thinking what your child is doing wrong and how they're misbehaving or whatever, they're just mirroring us. There's nothing bad about a child. They're just responding to us because they respond through our nervous system. They don't know any better. We're their mirror. So when we're not aware of how we behave, we often are not. And we can just look at our children and then say, oh, okay, why is my child behaving that way right now? Why is she throwing a tantrum? Okay, let's just hear her out. Be patient.
Yeah. I mean, they do not have the capacity to communicate what's going on in their brains a lot of the time, at least when they're that little. So yeah, they're responding to external stimuli, and their external stimuli right now is us and home. And yeah. But also not laying blame on yourself. You're not a bad mom if your kid has a tantrum.
No, no,
No.
no, 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 no. I
No.
mean,
And
obviously,
I
my kids had a tantrum, and I
yeah.
had one of my children throw herself on the floor in the middle of the street and toss her bike to the corner, and I didn't know how to cope with it. Today, I'm much smarter how I
Right.
could have coped with it differently. I'm not, yes, thank
No, I
you.
didn't think you were implying that at all. I'm
It's just
just
an invitation because it's so easy to look at our children and make them responsible for stuff that doesn't even belong to them, that they're caring for us.
yeah.
Anyway, it's just a side note.
No, I think it's important to know. And so it brings me to I have a curiosity, and then I'm going to bring us back home. But so my curiosity is this something that you have maybe not necessarily your trauma, but your healing process, is it something that you have shared with your children or made them a part of?
Very much.
Yeah.
And because with my girls, I definitely overshared
Mm.
because it was all happening at the same time. So they were very little. All of my trauma was coming to surface. I had to cope and deal with my family. My parents, I disconnected from them. We didn't see grandma and grandpa anymore. There was a lot of like, it was very turbulent, and navigating through this was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do.
Yeah.
And I shared with them in a way that I thought, it was like looking back, it was probably still too much for them. But that's just what happened. That was my way of coping and keeping them safe, and my way of making sense of what was happening. With my boys, it took much longer, until like they knew that we don't speak to my dad and that there are issues in the family, and that their cousins seem to be much closer with their grandparents, and all sorts of things like that. But I didn't really explain that much until they were like in their teens.
Mm.
So they knew something, but I really just shared a lot more when they were ready to hear, and one was very curious, and the other one didn't really want to hear much until he was like 17, 18. He just, every time I brought it up, he was like shutting down because he couldn't cope with it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, again, different generation, different parenting, different need,
Yeah,
different
absolutely.
coping skills.
Yeah, and I ask because I every family is different and every parent is different, and I'm always curious. I think there's more of a push these days, which I think is great, of being open with your kids, because you're a person too. Just like we said, like, our kids are processing their own stuff and trying to figure out the world. I think showing them that we're human too and that we have our own things that we're dealing with
Sure,
is important.
for sure. And my kids definitely saw me cry on different occasions. Like, it, as much as I sometimes wanted to shield them, but they also could see that I was going through things. It's a delicate line, you don't want to. I definitely didn't want to keep it a secret. That was now never an option because I do not do secrets.
No,
After
I would imagine not.
I,
Yeah.
I'm allergic to keeping secrets. So transparency and openness is important, and whenever my kids have questions, I'm always there to answer. But I don't feel that there's always an opening for them to hear. If that
Mm,
makes sense. There's like that need to tune in and see when is a time that we can talk about it. Sometimes we have to talk about things because of things that are happening or things that came to surface that are important for them to know. And sometimes we just have to let them come to us.
yeah, yeah. We've gotta be mindful of when they're ready to receive it, right? Yeah. Well, I'm gonna start bringing us home a little bit. I'm gonna wrap us around. I have really appreciated, just like you just said, your vulnerability and your honesty, and, I've loved getting to learn more about you and the journey that brought you to where you are today. For listeners who may want to learn more, because we obviously couldn't get into everything, I would have my podcasts would be hours long if I could talk about the things I wanted to talk about. Um, where are the best places that they can look to learn more about you?
Okay. The easiest place to connect with me is through my website. It's naomimorad.com. And I always start out with everyone with a free consult where we get to know each other, see if we're a good fit. I work both online and in person. And feel free to reach out.
Yeah, that'll be linked in the show notes too. So if listeners want an easy way to find you, they can just click in the show notes. And I have been ending my episodes differently this season. So I'm gonna have you do a little exercise. Not really, not a physical exercise. Don't worry. You don't have to get out of your chair. So we're hearkening back to the days before we were all able to be reached all the time, before text message, before voice memo, before all of these things where we could never be left alone.
The
When
good
you
old
had
days.
the good old days
Good
where
old days. Trust me.
yes.
The good old days.
Hey, I remember those days too. But so when you had to call and if the person wasn't there, you had to leave an old-fashioned message on the answering machine. So, and you can interpret this in whatever way feels right for you. But you don't know my next guest. You don't know who they are. You don't know what their story is. But you called Quiet Connection today, and you're going to leave a message for my next guest. I'll at least give you a hint. It's a mom. My next guest is a mom.
Okay.
They're not always moms.
Okay.
So for the next mom who's coming on to Quiet Connection, what message would you like to leave them?
What message would I like to leave her? To enjoy the podcast, to enjoy the hour with Chelsea, and that she can feel very relaxed and safe, and to just stay curious.
I love that. See, I love that so much. Thank you. Every answer is different. Sometimes it's like a message directly to them. Sometimes it's about your experience. Sometimes I don't know. I just think that this is really interesting. And the part that I think is going to be fun is that for you to get your message, you have to listen to the episode before yours and you can see if it resonates or not.
Interesting.
Yeah, it'll be like a little cosmic experience or experiment, and we'll see if they hit home or if they're way off base. But but yeah, just Naomi, I'm so thankful that I got to spend some time with you today, that you shared your story, and I know that there's someone out there listening that doesn't feel alone because of your story. So thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Thank you so much for having me. And I really enjoyed this hour with you.
I am so thankful to Naomi for her transparency and for reminding us that our bodies often carry the stories our minds aren't yet ready to tell. Her journey from empty shelves in her chest to feeling like the richest person in the world is a powerful testament to the possibility of transformation. To learn more about Naomi's work or to connect for a consultation, please visit the link in our show notes. If you'd like to share your personal journey, you can connect with us on our website, quietconnectionpodcast.com, or through email at chelsea@quietconnectionpodcast.com. Be sure you're following us on all your favorite social media platforms and share this episode with someone who may need to hear it. As always, remember to grab your emotional support water bottle, find a glimmer in your day, and remember, you are not alone. I see you. Hey, it's Chelsea. I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for tuning in and being a part of the Quiet Connection community. Did you know that you can support me and gain exclusive perks by subscribing to my Patreon account? By becoming a subscriber, you'll get access to bonus episodes, ad-free listening, exclusive chats, and even monthly goodies in the mail handmade by me. Your support helps me continue creating high-quality content and ensures that we keep spreading awareness and ending the stigma surrounding perinatal mood and anxiety disorders and so much more. Head on over to Patreon, search Quiet Connection Podcast, and join the community of listeners who are helping me make this podcast the best it can be.